Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Shea, and I'm president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 202 of the funnel, sales forecasting meeting. Before we get started, I'd like you to head on over to alignment-group.com/the funnel and subscribe to the funnel. And we'll send you the show notes weekly. Today's agenda only has 3 items in it: the nuts and bolts, data, and how to get there. So let's jump into nuts and bolts. What I mean by nuts and bolts is just like the construction of the meeting. So like I said last time in the last podcast about pipeline meeting, every week in every sales meeting, every Monday morning and every sales meeting around the country, sales teams are getting together and they're having this blended conversation, a pipeline and a forecast conversation. I can tell you the outcome of that is not very good. Driving numbers and driving growth does not happen having that kind of meeting weekly. Why? First of all, it's a Monday morning meeting. You're going through that snapshot of opportunities that are going to close, let's say this month, with every rep in the room. How much coaching and development do you think you can give them at that point? It's not much. You have a lot of people you're trying to get through, and you have a time frame that you need to live within, and then you're moving on with the week. Everybody's kind of moving on with the week. Now, you can have a forecast meeting weekly and the 2 pipeline meetings as a group, but understand the pipeline meeting is going to take a little bit longer. Instead, the forecast meeting should be Monday. It should be part of your Monday meeting. It's weekly, and it's whatever's closing within that current period, right? Whether you're managing the quarter or you're managing it monthly. And that is the time, not to coach or discuss strategy on a deal. It's a time to update the forecast numbers so you can present them up the food chain. It's a time for your rep to say yes or no, it's accurate, or yes, it's accurate, or no, it's better, or no, it's worse. As a manager, you should be involved in the sales stage conversions. You should know the data going into it. I'm not talking about the activities. That's for the pipeline side of it. Okay, and in the pipeline, you don't want to know the conversions. And also in the forecast meeting, you want to know the conversions because you want to know how accurate the numbers are going to be. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Every time you ask for forecast in today's world with most salespeople, not all, but a lot, and a lot of these meetings that are going on, when you ask for a forecast, they're going to give you quota or above because they know that's what's being asked of them. And then they're hoping, if they are going to fall short or they think they might fall short, that they get on a wing and a prayer that they're going to get to quota or go above it. No one's going to forecast. I shouldn't say no one. There are reps out there that forecast accurately what they're going to sell. Generally, that's 99% in the done deal, and that's what they're going to tell you. They're not going to talk about anything else because they don't want to risk looking bad. There's pitfalls all over that. If someone's going to be 200% of quota, they may only tell you quota. Then they look great. How'd you do that? My God, you killed it. What I would say is your accuracy is way off. I wouldn't beat them up over that, but that's not really forecasting. So we want to hold them accountable to the forecasting process. So the forecasting process is a time just to update the number. Are we going to get there or aren't we going to get there? I'm going to focus on accuracy versus quota achievement early on. I want people to be accurate in their assessment of what they're going to close, right? So I'm looking at the metrics on the front end. I'm having a pipeline meeting, peeling back the layer on every deal. I know what stage they're in because I paid attention to that. Now I'm looking at their forecast, and does it match the data that I have on the pipeline side of it? If the answer is yes, great. This makes sense. If the answer is no, then you need to pull them aside and have an individual conversation about that and say, wait a second, this forecast doesn't match what we're talking about in the pipeline. So we need to get that up. And if that means you're 60% of quota, that means you're 60% of quota. We want accuracy here. We'll figure out how to get you over quota. But eventually, the end of the month or the end of the quarter, it's all going to come out in the wash anyway if you're short. So let's get it right. Let's celebrate accuracy early on and then manage and coach to quota or above. So the accountability in the forecasting stage is to accuracy of the number. And you're both involved in that conversation at the pipeline stage. So when they're sitting in a room of peers and you're going over the forecast, you're not peeling back the layers on deals, just updating the numbers. And it's okay. Not forever, but it's okay to be short. Oh, that's heresy. Look, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get accuracy in the forecast. We'll talk about long-term responsibility to the number and quota and selling enough to keep your job. And we can analyze why or why not in small fraction. It's coming off the forecast. Why? Why aren't we getting that? Why not? Well, because there's a hiring freeze in place. And in order to implement the contract, they needed to hire 4 people. And that's not going to happen until next quarter when the budget's released. Okay, that makes sense. Should you have been aware of that in the pipeline discussion? Maybe. Maybe it was one of those things that came out of the blue. Those things happen. It's an imperfect world. That's a quick why or why not. And this is what happened. Okay, so it's off. Now it's out of the forecast. It's back in the pipeline. It's back further back in the pipeline. And you have the discussion in the pipeline meeting. This is about the numbers and accurately assessing those numbers. What I mean by accurately assessing those numbers, the forecast matches the outcome. You actually hit the number. And if it's changed in that meeting, you can give a brief, quick response as to why it fell out of the forecast, or in some cases, moved into the forecast. Okay? But if you're getting into the timing, if you're getting into the percentage and peeling back the layers and I need to move this from 90 to 95, that's a waste of your time. You're spending every week doing that, forget about it. It's the accuracy, it's the suspending, it's the numbers, and it should be a lot quicker than a pipeline meeting, an individual pipeline meeting with a rep. So you go around the room and you do that. Okay, that's the nuts and bolts. Weekly, Monday's a good time. I'd rotate who starts first and who goes next. I'd celebrate accuracy of the forecast. I wouldn't give people high fives and bonus checks because they're accurate and under quota. But I'd be very clear that that's what we're looking for. And you can talk to them privately about performance in your one-on-one coaching sessions or in your pipeline meetings. Let's talk about the role data plays here. Again, we're going back to historical conversion rates. Data helps you with accountability. Data drives these numbers. It's not a wish or a belief or a thought that I might close something. Yeah, they really like me. No, it's based on the conversion rates. It's based on the early metrics to get it into the pipeline. Then what you do once it's in the pipeline matched up against the sales process, right? The milestone-centric sales process. Are we doing the things we need to do to move it through the process? Are we meeting those gates? And if not, as a manager in the pipeline meetings, you're moving that stuff around. And then once it gets to the point where it can be forecasted, what are the conversion rates there? And at the end of the month, we analyze why or why not on the forecast. Did we hit the forecast or come close to it? Were we 99.9% of the forecast, or were we way off the forecast? And why did that happen? And why not? The data is going to tell you a lot there. Don't wait for the rep to tell you how they feel. This isn't about how they feel. This is about hitting all the benchmarks in the pipeline to get to the point where it drops into the forecast, and then the accuracy of that forecast. So that's the role data plays here. I think you're getting the theme because the data plays a role in the pipeline meetings. That's the kind of stuff you need to be looking at as a manager and get ahead of. So then you can coach to the things you need to coach to help them improve their numbers and get better at what they do. Okay, so let's talk about how to get there, because the way I've just explained this, I think most folks aren't doing it this way. So if you just kind of switch on a dime, you might run into problems. So here's what I'm going to suggest. First of all, try it. Say, this is what we're going to do moving forward. We're going to do a pipeline meeting, and this is how we're going to do the pipeline meeting. Beginning of the month, end of the month, we're going to do pipeline. And we're going to talk about every deal in your funnel. And we're going to peel back the layers, and we're going to strategize on that. And you're going to say to me, well, what happens in between if they have a problem with the deal? Those are your one-on-one coaching sessions weekly that you have. You should be having one-on-one meetings with your rep weekly. So after you come out of your forecasting meeting, when you sit down for your individual meetings and you start talking about the things you need to do for that week, and you're going through the metrics, you're going through your one-on-one conversation with them, you're going to talk about those specific deals and where they are and what they have on tap this week to make sure that things are still happening, and you're strategizing on that. But you're not covering everything, every opportunity, because you don't have time for that every week. So the pipeline meeting's a more of a deeper dive into that. Okay? So what I'm going to suggest you do is take a look at this with the forecast meeting. Say, okay, we're going to do the pipeline. We're going to do the forecast meeting. This is about yay or nay, up or down. Are we meeting the objectives that you forecast? You forecasted this number. Are we going to hit this? Yes. Are we still on track for this? Yes. Are we not on track for it? No. Why? Well, this deal, without going into heavy detail, this is why this deal's off and this deal's in, and this is why the number changed. Okay, we're updated. And if it's accurate and it works, great. Jump into that. If it doesn't, I would stop the whole conversation. End the forecast meeting. Do the pipeline review and the one-on-ones. Tell them you're going to track their progress for the next 2 months or 3 months. And maybe you have enough data you can go back a month or two. And you can look at the metrics around this. Or maybe develop the metrics. If you need to develop the metrics, then do it. But look at the metrics. What's happening in each stage of the process? Where are we on and where are we off? And if we looked back at X reps performance over the last 2 months, and we looked at each stage of the process, and we looked at the metrics on their calls, and we said to ourselves, okay, this is what the forecast should have been. This is how they forecasted. Then we go a couple of months ahead, and we track their progress, and we forecast based on what we see as a manager and see how accurate we can get it. Then we can show them the way. We can sit down in a meeting and say, okay, this is what we did. We went back historically and we looked at the last 2 months. We moved forward 2 months and we tracked your progress based on our pipeline meeting and the metrics. This is your forecast for these 4 months. And the forecast matches up with what you did. And now I'm going to show you how to forecast and what that looks like to the rep. Because if you're trying to do it on the fly, it can be a little heady, it can be a little difficult, and it can be demoralizing. So if you just say, look, we're changing this up a little bit. We're going to do a pipeline meeting, and here's the rules of the game. We're going to meet twice a month. We're going to take every deal that comes into the pipeline from lead status through to the end, and we're going to peel back the layers on each step of the process, make sure it's lined up in the sales process where it should be in the deal stage. Make sure it matches and we hit the gate. We're going to strategize on how to keep the opportunities moving through the pipeline. And when we get to the end of the pipeline, we're going to forecast appropriately the deals we're supposed to forecast. So we're going to say in the pipeline meeting, this goes into the forecast. Then the forecast is going to be our accounting of what we're going to do for that month in that 30-day period. Then we're going to have a forecast meeting every week, and we're going to say yay or nay on the stuff that's on there. Why every week? Well, for one, we're only having a pipeline meeting twice a month. So in between, if things have changed, we'll know about that. If something stays on the pipeline or falls off the pipeline. Our objective here is to close more deals and to be accurate with our forecasting. And oh, by the way, in the pipeline meeting, we're going to take out the stuff that doesn't belong. Why are we going to do that? Because we only want healthy stuff in the pipeline. So we're going to make sure we get those deals out that are time wasters or those deals that aren't real opportunities and have you focus on the ones that are. And if we need to go out and find more business, we're going to strategize on what the metrics look like to bring more business into the pipeline to make it nice and healthy. So we can drive opportunities through the process into the forecast. And that forecast meeting, round robin, once a week, the entire sales team, we're going to track it and post it so everybody knows what you forecasted and what you did. And we're shooting for accuracy here. We want accuracy in the forecast. Bottom line, folks, the forecast is the sum of all the work you've done previous to that. So you can't make magic happen. Once in a while, you can go out and pull a rabbit out of a hat and get a deal you weren't supposed to get that business, to get to quota and get over the line, and everybody's happy with it. But at the end of the day, you can't make that happen month in and month out. You're going to have to do the work to get there. That's why we're going to do it this way. And I think they'll respond positively to that. Now, you have work to do as a manager to build all of that out. And I don't have time in a 15 to 20 minute podcast to cover every nuance of a pipeline meeting and every nuance of a forecast meeting. But I will tell you this. The old style of forecasting, sort of the blended version, does not yield the kind of results you think it does. There's enough research out there to tell you that the way I just laid it out for you is the better way to manage it. Because you're getting into some heavy coaching. And that's where you should be. You need to be a coach. Day in and day out. So you're coaching in the pipeline meetings. You're coaching in your one-on-ones. You're coaching in your field rides. The forecast and the closed business at the end of the month is the sum total of all that work. The forecast is not the time to be coaching. It's the end of the month. You're in a 30-day period. You're forecasting you're going to close this business. Now you're going to coach on it? Sure, there's some work to be done in the month and all that, but I'm talking about real live, heavy coaching week in and week out. I hope that makes sense to you, because it makes sense to me. It was something I wrestled with how to explain it in the last two podcasts, but I really wanted you to get a sense of the difference between the two. And I almost put them in as one podcast, but I decided against that. I decided they both needed to stand on their own. And I probably could have fit them both into a 20-minute podcast, but I don't know that you would have gotten enough information out of it. Subscribe to The Funnel. Head on over to alignment-group.com/the funnel. You can find us on Facebook. My Twitter handle is @ShayJohnR. Of course, you can find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect on LinkedIn. Contact me, jshay@alignment-group.com. Website, alignment-group.com. Thank you for subscribing, and until next time, keep filling the funnel.